It is the start of a busy holiday week, and we're glad you're with us for ABC24 this week. I'm Richard Ransom, along with Otis Sanford, and this is actually one of our favorite shows, I think you would agree, Otis, of the entire year, because we observe a very special Thanksgiving tradition around here. So let's get to our topics for today. The killing of young Dolph has the city's ongoing problem with violent crime front and center again. There were memorials and meetings. Do we expect too much of our police and politicians? Also, schools going rogue. What are we to make of 5 suburban school districts currently defying a federal court order and health department directive by making face masks optional? And then we will switch gears and loosen things up a bit for our annual Turkey of the Year nominees. My panel and I will share our picks, I should say, for who we think is the most deserving of this very prestigious honor. All right, let's get right to it. I also want to introduce my panel. In addition to Otis, we have Susan Adler Thorp, political consultant with Thorp Communications, and we also have Reverend Ken Whalum with New Olivet Worship Center. Thanks to everyone for being with us today. We appreciate it. Ken, I want to start with you about this young Dolph situation this week. A tragic story, to say the least. You wrote the book on this. The name of the book, Hip Hop is Not Our Enemy, in fact. I see you have a copy of it right there. Very good. I would suggest to you, I've heard from a lot of viewers who say hip hop is our enemy. I've heard from a number of them who say, when you look at the lyrics, the glorification of prostitution, drugs, and gangs, why are we surprised that we're seeing some of the violence we're seeing? What's your response? What are your thoughts on this?
Well, my position today is what it was 10 years ago when I wrote the book, and that is that we can't blame the hip-hop generation for being who they are if we don't accept the responsibility for not leading them in the right direction. You can't expect people to grow up in the right direction if you don't lead them in the right direction. And I'm not going to castigate young people or the hip-hop generation for being themselves when we, the older generation, particularly clergy, educators, by and large, have not given them a viable option, Richard.
Interesting. Susan, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think I absolutely agree with Kenneth. I think that poverty and poor education really is very much a part of the rise in crime. These kids, what do these kids have to go for when 25% of third graders can't even read at a third grade level, and only 20% of our high school graduates are college ready? What do we expect? And plus the fact that there are so many guns on the street, there are a plethora of guns. The juvenile crime has skyrocketed this year. I mean, it's mostly in the 16 to the 20-year-old age group that really loves that hip-hop scene, and they get enamored by gangs and groups, and guns are stolen from 1,500 guns have been stolen from vehicles this year. So what's your answer? Do we expect too much from our elected officials? In a way, yes. And I think Kenneth is right. Parents are to blame. The religious church leadership is to blame. We're all to blame. And perhaps maybe it's time for what we would have a crime summit, that a community gets together and figures out how do we make it better? How do we put into the heart and soul of young people what is right by society and what is wrong with civil unrest?
Well, but yet if we were to have, if meetings made a difference in the crime rate, Memphis would have probably the lowest crime rate in the country. We have a lot of meetings about crime. Yeah. The police director shows up, we expect the mayor to be there, and a lot of people point fingers at those individuals. You know, I don't know how much we can do that and be fair.
Right,
well, I would
go ahead, Susan.
Well, I would argue that in 1979 there were a lot of meetings about how do we improve our economy in Memphis, and in 1979 we all came together for the jobs conference, and 10 years later we were the distribution capital of the world. You know, you can meet here and you can meet on every corner in town if you want, but if you don't come together and figure it out as a community together, it's going to remain fragmented.
Well, maybe that's where the leadership comes in, Otis.
Well, I mean, the problem I have, and I do agree with Ken, and to a degree I agree with Susan. There's enough blame to go around here for everybody. But frankly, I'm pretty tired of meetings. Yes, we did have successful meetings back in the late 1970s, and out of that, the jobs conference that helped the city economically. But we don't agree on how to attack this issue, Richard. There are far too many guns and high-powered weapons on our streets, and our legislature has allowed even more, and certainly has allowed it without even permits or and allowed us to carry the guns in our cars and on our persons. And you know, we saw the photographs the other day of the perpetrators in the young Dolph killing, and look at the weapon that was used there. We just have to do more to get these high-powered guns off the streets. Yes, we need better education, but you know, young Dolph was 36 years old, I believe, I'm correct. So, and I don't know who the perpetrators were. Maybe they were juveniles, but I don't think they probably were. We just have to have a better approach in how to limit the number of guns that are getting into the hands of dangerous people and causing this kind of carnage to happen.
All right, Ken, I'll let you have the final word on this. You know, Chief Davis pitched her Scorpion unit this week before the tragedy involving young Dolph, in which she's assigning 50 officers to the really high crime areas where things are really an issue, and the thinking is that they can, if 80% of the crimes happen in a certain area, that's where you really need to target. And she's also really big on this community policing and building relationships that mean something, a less militaristic attitude by police in how they interact with the community. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I understand the sentiment, Richard, and I feel where she's going, but I think the terminology is unfortunate. Did you know a scorpion is a predatory animal, a predatory arachnid? That means that they attack. We have to embrace our children, man. We've got to develop the kind of mindset that protects them and does not become predators of their lives, man. And this is not an easy thing. Memphis is at a difficult time right now, man. We are reaping consequences. This stuff didn't just develop overnight. We're responsible for the seeds of neglect, the seeds of ignoring the real problems, the seeds of withdrawing financial support from our children. These are seeds that are yielding a bountiful harvest, and you can't just reverse a harvest, man.
Well, let's talk about another issue when we're talking about protecting our kids, and that is face masks at schools. Under a federal court order right now, they are mandatory, except 5 suburban school districts, except for Germantown, are basically disobeying that federal court order, not to mention a health directive from the Shelby County Health Department, while another federal court tries to sort out whether the law that bans face mask mandates is even legal. So it's all kind of tied up right now, and I guess they have some legal ground to stand on, or the school board attorneys wouldn't be advising them another way. But what are your thoughts about, Otis, we'll start with you on that happening.
Well, I just see in this case, the suburban school districts are paying more attention to the political leaders in Nashville, including the governor, than they are paying to the courts. The courts have ruled, at least temporarily, that the banning of the mask mandates is not right, or they've actually put a preliminary injunction on that. That is a legal court ruling. Shelby County schools are abiding by that, but the suburban schools are not. And I frankly believe that they are playing more politics here because they want to be more beholden to the Republicans in charge of the legislature and in the governor's office than they are to the federal courts. And that's a recipe for disaster in the long run.
But what's interesting, though, is the lesson I think we might be teaching our kids. We're telling them, or we teach them to respect the law,
right,
respect law and order. And you may not agree with what the policy is and what the judge has done, but right now, that is what should be happening, yet you're telling your kids, we're going to openly defy the law of the land. Susan, you take this one.
Well, I think that the other issue is up to the parents. And it's, Otis is right. I mean, and you are right that you're teaching the kids that the laws mean nothing. But, the vaccine is out there. And if these parents choose not to take the vaccine and they choose not to have their children vaccinated, then it's up to them. I mean, we cannot obviously force them to have the vaccine. They have to go to school. It's kind of like smoking. You know, smoking's bad for you, but if you want to smoke, go ahead and smoke. Just kind of stay a little bit away from me. But on the vaccine, it's there. If they don't care if their kids get sick or if they get sick, what am I going to do about it? It's become the unvaccinated pandemic, and that's what we have to deal with.
Reverend Whalum, you are the father of 3 boys. What are your thoughts as a parent and preacher on this?
Well, as a preacher at a church in one of those suburbs, let me be clear about this. The very same school staff and parents who say, well, our kids shouldn't have to wear masks, they'll be the first ones to talk about freedom of speech. But a wise philosopher, a great philosopher, James Brown once said, like a dull knife, you just ain't cutting. You're saying loud, talking loud, and saying nothing. And so I couldn't care less what they say. I just want to keep my kids covered with masks, and I'd pull them out of the schools if I needed to.
Okay. All right, we're going to have to let that sit and get on to a little more relaxing stuff, shall we say. The Turkey of the Year when we come right back.
What is that?
When it comes to leaf blowers, size matters.
The Leaf King! The Leaf King! Yes, 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 yes!
Same goes for your law firm. Morgan & Morgan.
Going big?
America's largest injury law firm.
That was awesome.
What should we do?
I'm going to cashnetusa.com. I can apply in minutes, and if approved, we can have the money as soon as the same business day.
Go to cashnetusa.com to apply for the money you need.
You agree with this, or you are going to lose your job.
That's a slap in the face. $200.
Overruled.
Things can get heated.
That was dramatic.
But it's all good.
I think Jeff got out of the cage a little bit.
Big T-Bone did too. We're good. Because we're family.
Ain't no coach gonna make me an offer now.
You'll be forced to sit out your entire freshman year.
For some people, walking away is worth it. Just depends on what you got to lose. You just need a little time.
Time's the one thing I don't have.
Now, with so much on the line, more Americans are turning to David Muir and ABC's World News Tonight than any other newscast across all of television.
How long have we been doing this, Otis, our Turkey of the Year?
No, quite a while.
Years and years,
Richard,
right?
Quite a while.
All right, well, we're going to find out who your nominee is this year. We'll start, though, with Susan on her nominee for Turkey of the Year. State Senator Brian Kelsey's your choice. Why?
Well, he is my choice. Listen, it was a hard decision. There are sure a lot of turkeys out there, but I picked Kelsey because he's been in the state Senate for over a decade. And he was indicted this year on a federal campaign finance law violations. He was charged with violating several campaign finance laws as part of a conspiracy to help his failed 2016 campaign for Congress. Now, Kelsey says he's innocent, and in our country, you are innocent until you're proven guilty. But he also says this is a witch hunt by the Biden administration. And that the truth is that any federal investigation that has to do with an elected official has to be approved by the Department of Justice first. And this was approved by the Department of Justice under President Trump, and it's been going on for some time. Look, Kelsey, the bottom line is Kelsey should have known better. He's an attorney. He's a smart man. He's got a law degree from a top law school, Georgetown University. He flat out should have known better.
Well, it remains to be seen, but he did switch his defense team, we know, this week was a development that happened this week. Reverend Ken, now you have a little unique approach here. You have a three-headed turkey. Number one, the SES School Board. The second head is the Greater Memphis Chamber, and the third is Mayors Strickland and Harris combined. Why don't you explain this one to us?
Well, they could have killed a bird with one stone, two birds with one stone, literally, dealing with the pandemic and dealing with the education problem here in our county. The school board, and I didn't say Superintendent Ray because he's an employee of the school board, the commissioners of Shelby County Schools should have and still could work with the Chamber of Commerce and both mayors to provide smaller classroom teacher to student ratio spaces in empty office space across the city of Memphis and Shelby County, man, and all of them still have time to redeem themselves. This pandemic is not over yet. They need to be creative, roll up their sleeves, and be creative about providing safe, sanitary learning environments for our children. They could still do it today, Richard.
Very interesting. All right, Otis, let's talk about your turkey. The Republican supermajority in the State House gets your nod.
Yeah, they do, and for good reason. This legislature is, to me, one of the worst in the nation in my mind. And I just have two quick examples here, Richard. It started during the regular session when they, at the end of the session, they hastily met and passed a law banning the teaching of systemic racism in schools without any hearings, without hearing from any school officials about whether it was actually happening, and it was not. But they passed it anyway with some misguided information that came from other states. And then they had a special legislative session just a month or so ago in which they banned the mask mandates. We just got through talking about that a minute ago. They banned the implementation of mask mandates in schools. The courts have said that you can't do that, but they did it anyway. So yes, they are my turkeys of the year. But let me just quickly say, I had a very close second, late-breaking close second in Edmund Ford Sr., who uses his position at the city council to berate people, to use inappropriate language, berate even his own colleagues. He is a public embarrassment, and he gets my close second.
Okay. Well, let me press you on the Republican supermajority, though, because you got to give them credit for doing some things this session.
Well, yeah.
Like the Ford mega site, finding $800 million worth of economic incentives, having that special session and allowing that to happen this year.
Oh, absolutely, I do that. And I give the governor even more credit because under his administration, they got this done. And the legislature was just asked to approve that $500 million appropriation. But there were even some members of the Republican Party who were trying to hold that up with some other things that they wanted to have done. Again, they are still my turkeys, even though we are getting that much-needed Ford plant up here in Haywood County.
All right.
Hey, Richard, I want to jump in and say that I don't give them credit for finding $800 million for Ford, for the Ford plant. In government, that $800 million is just sitting in the Treasury. All they had to do was raise their hand and say, spend it.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough. My nominee for Turkey of the Year is St. Francis Hospital, and I'll tell you why. We have 6 major hospitals in this community. St. Jude was the first to say everyone who is employed by us needs to be vaccinated for COVID. Then the others fell in line, including very large hospital systems like Baptist, which employs some 19,000 people in this community. But for whatever reason, St. Francis has been the lone hospital system that's refused to do it. And I guess we can speculate as to why that is, but I think that sends a terrible message. And for not know that every healthcare worker who might be helping you if you need some medical attention has been vaccinated, I think is terrible.
I think that's a good one. I think everybody should have been on the same page, especially when we're talking about first responders and healthcare workers, to be first in line, really, to make sure that the health was protected of people who actually work there and people who actually come there. I agree with that.
Yeah, I didn't even get into that. The first responders, you know, if you have you have a heart attack and a paramedic is coming into your home, you want to know that they've been vaccinated.
Exactly.
Or if you get, you know, police officer, you need help from a police officer, you like to think they have too, but we've heard what the mayors have had to say about that. They're afraid that if they do that, too many are going to quit. Yeah. And so that's why they haven't done it.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, what this panel is most thankful for as they look back at 2021 right after this.
Call 526-2126.
transferring some cash from my advanced financial flex loan to my bank account. Now? Did you see how much I spent on popcorn? You're not supposed to use your phone in the theater.
You're not supposed to talk either.
Managing my flex loan is so fast and easy, I can take care of business anytime and anywhere.
That's pretty cool. Thumbs up for me. It's perfect, right? It's perfect. No, you know what? A few more. Hey, hey, hey! Check it out. We gotta get these lights set up.
Dad!
At Lowe's, we put our decorations and gifts out early, so you can make the most of the season. It's all at the one place that has everything you need.
The Dancing with the Stars season finale is here.
The most fun ever!
Amanda Klutz, Iman Shumpert, Cody Rigsby, and JoJo Siwa. Only one can win.
We can't wait.
The Dancing finale live ABC Monday. Play You Bet Your Life. From home.
Watch the show and scan the QR code to play along.
Good luck! Weeknights at 6:30 on ABC24 Memphis.
Welcome back to ABC24 this week. Joined by my panel, we have Otis Sanford, ABC24's political analyst, Susan Adler Thorp, a political consultant with Thorp Communications, the Reverend Ken Whalum with the New Olivet Worship Center, and I'm, of course, Richard Ransom. Glad you're with us on this Sunday. Now we want to talk about what everyone is most thankful for as we look back at 2021. Again, we'll start with Susan, ladies first on this, and you said the vaccine is what you're most thankful for this year.
I am most thankful for the vaccine. I think that the vaccine is the miracle of science. I think we are living on the cutting edge of a new era of medicine, and we are the beneficiaries of it. Those of us that have chosen to take the vaccine, even though there have been breakthrough infections, those of us who have taken it have escaped the worst of the virus, and it's still out there. And as Kenneth said earlier, it's not going away. We're in the middle of this pandemic. And the vaccine has saved countless number of lives. And really, if you think about it, it gave us our economy back. It gave us our lives back. But I've got also a second thing I'm thankful for, and it's in defiance of what Kenneth said earlier. I'm thankful for the city administration and how it stepped forward and led the vaccine effort here in Memphis. There were a lot of pitfalls and there's still some stumbling, but the city took over when it had to and led us through the vaccine at the Pipkin Center in the Appling Center and throughout, really in a respectable way until a vaccine had greater distribution. I'm thankful for the vaccine, thankful for the people in the city who engineered a good rollout.
You know, Susan, doctors tell us that it's the safest vaccine in the history of humankind that we've had. Yet you have all this hesitancy still as we look at cases going up 25–30% in the past couple of weeks as we head into Thanksgiving break and the holidays and family gatherings. You know, you just wonder what it's going to take to get more people off the fence and get the shot.
I don't know what it's going to take, but all I can tell you is that I wasn't scared of the shot from the very beginning, and I volunteered for the vaccine trial. And although I have to tell you, I'm one of the lucky 50% in the trial that got the placebo, I'm still proud of the fact that I volunteered for it, and I would do it again if it means saving so many people in society.
Okay. Reverend Whalum, you chose your wife, Sheila. Now, I love Sheila. I know I can see why you would choose her, but are you hoping for a special gift this Christmas or something, or what's going on?
Man, I am most thankful for Sheila Ann Lee Whalum, Carver Cobra, the queen of Carver High School. She has shown time and time again that she is my ride or die chick. She literally helped save my ministry. 20 years ago, you guys will recall, there was an insurrection at our church, and my wife was a key player in preserving the love and the unity at that church. She has given me 3 beautiful boys, grown men, who are all talented professional musicians, actors, songwriters. It is just a beautiful thing. And I tell you what, Richard, the first thing I noticed about her was her smile. She was singing in the choir at Shady Grove Baptist Church. Her smile, that's all I could think about when I left the church was her smile. And you know what? She makes my teeth itch.
I love it. I love it. All right, Otis, your choice for what you're most thankful for this year is the historic Orange Mound community.
Absolutely. You know, there are a lot of great communities in the city. But I picked Orange Mound for one good reason this year, Richard. I was involved in the effort and the planning for the Larry Finch Plaza on the campus of the University of Memphis. And of course, Larry Finch came out of Melrose in Orange Mound. And the community just so embraced that effort. And they did it in such a respectful way, such an air of gratitude. And then when we had the opening about a month or so ago, they showed up en masse on the South Campus of the U of M and showed the kind of community spirit that you would love to see. So yes, there are a lot of other worthy entities, worthy people to be thankful for, but I'm thankful for a historic community of Orange Mound who really showed its class with the Larry Finch Plaza.
And you cannot argue the sense of pride they have about their community and determination to keep it real.
No question about it.
We'll not let go of that.
Right.
My choice, the healthcare workers of Memphis and the Mid-South, you know, as if it wasn't bad enough last year when there was no vaccine, I think they had an even more challenging task this year to be committed to their professions when they know a lot of the patients they saw didn't have to be there, and yet they stood up and gave the best possible care they could, was able to tour the COVID ward at Methodist not that long ago, about a month or two ago, just as the Delta surge was starting to dissipate a bit. And I was just very, very impressed with the commitment to what they have to do. I'm sure it has not been easy.
Right.
All right, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back.
I still think I can sell the car myself. This is going to take all day. And I have big plans. Brunch, bubble bath.
At WeBuyAnyCar.com, selling your vehicle is always fast and fair.
And a nice pedicure.
All done.
Don't trade in or sell by yourself. Go to WeBuyAnyCar.com now for a free online valuation. Get in, get out, get paid.
We need some help.
I know. I'm going to CashNetUSA.com. And if approved, we can have the money in our account as soon as the same business day.
Go to CashNetUSA.com to apply for the money you need.
After I got hurt in a car wreck, the insurance company tried to pay me chump change. That's when I called the powerful lawyers and got NST Strong.
NST Strong. I'm Corey B. Trotz. At NST, we work to get you lots.
When you wake up in the
Let's do this!
darling, I'll be by your side. I'll be there by your side.
Start your day off right. Wake up with ABC24 News right now and
Good morning, America.
The Dancing with the Stars season finale is here.
The most fun ever.
Amanda Klutz, Iman Shumpert, Cody Rigsby, and JoJo Siwa. Only one can win.
We can't wait.
The Dancing finale live ABC Monday.
You know what else I'm thankful for is our viewers. And you guys, viewers at home, do a wonderful job of staying in touch with us and sharing your opinions, good and bad. We'd love to hear from you. And the email address is rransom@abc24.com, rransom@abc24.com. My thanks to Otis, to Susan, and to Reverend Whalum for being with us today. And to you at home, we'll see you next week for ABC24 This Week.